the year. And I was very thankful that I had Noah Fant in the background, and I also was really lucky to pick up Bobby Tonyan for $39 on waivers. So having tight end depth, I don't think, especially if they can play in your flex spot, then that's just bonus. And I think Goddard has the opportunity this year, if Ertz does move on, to garner a lot of targets in there. So I also had Fant and Goddard, kind of the last two guys in a tier before there was a tier break. So I decided to move on him.
Yeah, well, speaking of tier breaks, I've been looking at your running backs, and this is, again, where our minds have met here and what you should worry about, Kaz. But I have not hesitated on Ronald Jones, not at all. Matter of fact, I may have drafted him a little higher than even what you have done, and I like the way he runs, and I'm hoping he can hang on to the football and stay on the field longer. There's a number of backs here, complete backfield. They keep adding guys. And I see some people just throw up their hands and say, I'm avoiding that backfield. I'm not. I like other backs in that backfield as well, but Jones I like best, and I want him on my team. And so it gave me great validation to see that Jones is on your team. What are you expecting, and how often will you be playing him?
I think he's going to have a great opportunity to be a flex player. I ended up with a lot of Fournette last year. And he did very well down the stretch for me. I had no Rojo and stayed away from Rojo faithfully. But when you watch the Bucs play, when he got the ball, if he held on to it, he had burst and he made some great runs. So I had to make a calculated guess. I think he's going to have opportunity. I don't know. I don't think they have any strong competition for him and Fournette. I don't think Bernard's going to take a whole bunch of that. So I think he'll just be a good opportunity if he gets that role. But he will have games that I know for sure he'll take off.
Beautiful.
Kaz, okay, so I teased this earlier about Chuba Hubbard. The only two rookies you drafted in Genesis this year were indeed Hubbard and then also Jalen Waddle, who got drafted early by the Dolphins in the NFL draft. So I can't remember if I've said this on this podcast or not, but I was never a big Jalen Waddle guy. Oh, you know what? I know I said it on a different podcast, but I'm not a big Jalen Waddle guy. But so sort of tell me your expectation on why you like Waddle this year. And I know Hubbard sort of has to, he's got to have an injury or something, in order to be fantasy worthy. But if that happens, talk a little bit about what you would expect for him as well.
Sure. Typically, I don't like taking a whole bunch of rookies in redraft. I know there's some of my fellow 26ers who love jumping on the rookies and really load up on those. I like the vets. I like some of the what you know about the guy. But I was getting thin at wide receiver. I think Waddle playing with Tua has some opportunity. He's certainly got some speed. Hopefully he's healed from that injury. So I think he is one of those kind of top 3-4 receivers in the class, and I see him being a flex fill-in quite a bit. As for Hubbard, I'll admit part of it was a sentimental Canadian pick. Like you said, he's not going to see a whole bunch of field time with CMC, even if they cut back CMC. If they say they're going to cut back CMC, that's probably cutting them back to 80% of the touches. Now, we saw an injury bug there last year and what that did for Davis. So, good backup. I'll hold them, and I get to pick the Canadian.
I love it. I love it. Kaz, I'll tell you, in my work as a player agent, when I go around the country and I seem to get in touch with some of the Canadian kids that are down here playing, I spoke to one recently, and they always have a tremendous work ethic and are really, really proper, adequate, and very pleasant to deal with and talk to. It's just, maybe it's that Canadian upbringing. You got a little bit of that ringing in your voice right now. You haven't challenged anybody or haven't thrown down with anybody yet. But, we've got to ask you. We got to ask you to continue this genuine and generous personality of from Canada, and let us know who are some of the other rookies that you like. Because Balky and I have been following rookies all spring. And Balky, I don't know if I'm speaking for you or not. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But we saw very, very few surprises in the draft. It's the first draft I've ever watched where I felt like I had a good feel for every offensive possible fantasy rookie that would be picked. So I've got my guys lined up. Can you tell us some of yours without tipping your hand as to your next move as a 26er?
Sure. You know what? There is. I was fortunate enough that I've wrapped up my 9 Dynasty rookie draft, so there's no more secrets to let out. I had a pretty diversified group, so I only had a few early picks. I had a couple chase. I had one Pitts that I got through a deal. So I was more in that kind of 1.8, 1.9 range, and it wasn't a very pleasant place to be. I didn't find it. I did end up, you guys were talking earlier about Trey Sermon, so I did end up with a few shares of Trey Sermon. So I was happy to hear that news clip this morning. I got a few Ramondre Stevenson just because he's supposed to be a power back and ending up in Belichick's offense. We'll see what happens with him. But I was really, I found and there was a flock of receivers, really good, talented ones, but landing spots and opportunity, I just didn't feel comfortable about very many of them.
Okay, fair enough. I've gone rookie crazy, so we'll have to get together. We'll have to get together around week 11 or 12 and figure out who was right. But meanwhile, this class of rookies not known for being as deep as some in the past years, but I see a lot of talent, and I've been picking it, and let's hope some of it plays. But
there's certainly I found lots of guys that found their favorite wide receivers, whether they were just guys that they studied a lot or were fortunate enough to see lots of their games. So I think there was lots of talent, just so much uncertainty. And that's kind of why I stayed away from them. I ended up with a Shara Waddle and a Shara Smith and a Shara Bateman, and so little bits and pieces of them, but no one that I really loaded up on.
Well, as Brad, they say in Canada, it's a process.
Yes.
Yes, you are right. Brad, I'm just kind of curious when you talk about, because we're talking redraft. When we talk redraft on this show, you said that historically you've liked the veterans. Is that kind of true in Dynasty too? Do you find yourself not going gaga over rookies and swapping out those picks for more proven players, or has it not always been that way for you?
Well, one of the challenges with the 26ers and playing in their leagues is that there are a few of the guys that go really gaga over rookies. We got guys that go hard on rookies. I got guys that go hard on tight ends, guys that go hard on running backs. So you kind of have to roll with those punches in a way and find out where your niche is and where you get your value. So I like to think I'm not paying too much for the rookies. I like them, and they certainly, lots of them end up on my lineups eventually through deals and stuff like that. But during drafts, I sometimes don't see the value in them.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'll say one thing about drafting with the 26ers. It reminds me very much of going live to Las Vegas, because if you think of a player and can make a case for picking him, you better pick him. Because don't fool yourself that he's going to be there when he comes back around, rookie or veteran. And I've experienced that almost in every round. And because of that, I've been elevating the players that I want. And, it's one aspect I love of drafting with you guys is, the team is going to be uniquely yours when you're finished with it, because if you hesitate and think you're going to get someone later, you're most likely going to be wrong.
Brad,
group of guys.
Yes, they are, no doubt, and they've shown that time after time over the last several seasons here in the FFPC. I always like covering the Genesis League with the 26ers live for sure. Brad, I do want to get to a couple of emails from some listeners here. The first one is from Andy in Pensacola, Florida. He writes, "Hi, Brad. Are you seeing any value on the perimeter passing attack for the Patriots this season? I'm wondering if Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, or even N'Keal Harry is worth a dart throw this year. Nice work in Genesis, man. That is Andy in Pensacola, Florida. Andy, thank you for the email. Brad, do you have any thoughts on that between Aguilar, Bourne, and Harry? Any of those guys tripping your trigger given where they're going in FFPC drafts?
Absolutely. We were going to talk about some later round flyers. I ended up with a lot of Aguilar this year. In rookie drafts, round 6, he was always there. Patriots paid him a lot of money. Don't know who's going to be quarterback. That's going to be the one caveat to him. But Bill doesn't like to spend money, and hopefully they're going to use him. So he could be a real surprise target hog.
Farrell, have we talked about Patriots receivers with you at all? I feel like we touched on Harry, but we haven't talked about Aguilar or Bourne much with you.
Aguilar to me is a wonderful selection, and I think he is. I think he wouldn't have been run away from too many teams like he was from the Raiders. I think something at the end of the season. Perhaps it was the Miami game, bad taste. They just in the mouth just decided to part ways. But I think he'll be part of that New England culture, and I think he'll benefit from that. So yes, and he was very productive, and could separate from coverage all over the field. He's physical. He can get off the line. He can beat you deep. He's difficult to cover. And I agree with Kaz. We don't know who's going to be the quarterback, but both styles of the quarterback he'll be responsive to. So I really like the acquisition, and he would be my go-to Patriot here. I'm not too impressed with many of the other receivers just from what I saw this past year. And Myers caught about 55 balls, but never found the touchdown, never found the end zone last year.
According to Football Guys Players Championship ADP data, Nelson Aguilar is currently going as wide receiver 65 in the 15th round right now. Kendrick Bourne is wide receiver 105. He is going in the 20th round when he is picked. He isn't always picked. And then N'Keal Harry isn't even being drafted right now, too. So I think that everybody's on board with you guys. Aguilar is the pick if there's going to be any value with the Patriots receivers this year, especially no Julian Edelman there as well. Something to think about. One more email here before we get to Farrell's final question for you, Brad. George in Greensboro, North Carolina. Greetings, Kaz of the North. Who makes for a better backup running back stash, Gus Edwards or Jamal Williams? George, thank you for the email. We appreciate you listening. So you have Gus Edwards. You would like to think backing up J.K. Dobbins in Baltimore, but who the heck knows there what Harbaugh is capable of. And not the first time I've said that, too, although I'm usually referring to his brother. And then Jamal Williams backing up DeAndre Swift in Detroit. So, Kaz, your thoughts on who makes the better backup running back stash this year between Edwards and Williams?
I wondered if that fella has access to my lineups because I own both those guys a lot.
Really?
I like Gus Edwards. I don't know if it's going to be – he'll certainly be the number 2 in Baltimore, but to be a 65-35, 60-40, I think he showed really well last year. They're a running team. I know they got their receiver. They drafted their receivers this year, but I still think that's their bread and butter. And I think with a running quarterback, it opens up holes. And if he gets his playing time, I think Gus Edwards is a great guy to have on your roster.
Just looking at this right now, as far as their ADP goes, Gus Edwards, running back 45 at the 11:05 right now, so obviously literally a mid-round pick. Jamal Williams, when I look him up, he is, and why I just had it now, why can I not find it? Boy, why does this always happen? Jamal Williams, running back 52 at the 12:08. So Edwards going a little over a full round ahead of Williams right now, but both in that sweet spot where you want to take those running back steps. Williams going right around Chuba Hubbard, Latavius Murray, J.D. McKissick. That's all the territory there. And then Edwards, Darrell Henderson, Jeff Wilson, and Devin Singletary. That's where they're going. So that's you're looking at 7 running backs over the course of about a round and a half there, as far as that goes. Farrell, we have enjoyed Brad on the show tonight and picking his brain. Before we let him go, we do have to ask him one more question.
Yes, we do.